We're turning to the car industry now because the US and Europe have been going after China recently for unfairly propping up its electric car industry.
Is China the new EV king? Move over, gas pumps. It's charging time. China is seeing a sharp increase in EV sales as local manufacturers aggressively lower costs. This year, EV sales are expected to increase to over 10 million in China alone, making up almost 45% of all automobile sales in the nation. Over the last 3 years, the Chinese government's strategic goal to establish a globally dominant automobile sector has dramatically paid off. China has established a strong lead in every stage of the electric vehicle supply chain, including raw material management, battery manufacturing, car production and sales, and public charging infrastructure, after more than 60 years of preparation. According to a recent study, China has lagged behind its European and American rivals by many years in a number of key areas, including the establishment of a rare earth value chain in the 1960s, the emergence of the new energy vehicle sector in the 1990s, and a strong concentration on battery electric cars since 2012. The report by Mark Alochet, Research Associate at the Management Research Center at the École Polytechnique, emphasizes the Chinese government's progressive policies in addition to its whatever it takes approach to making significant investments in the electric vehicle business. According to the research, China is expected to have invested between 110 to 160 billion euros in all phases of electric vehicle life cycle by 2022. The outcomes are evident. By the end of 2022, China held a 57% market share worldwide, 60% of the world's electric vehicle fleet, and 75% of the world's battery manufacturing capacity. Europe, in sharp contrast, has imposed more stringent automobile emissions requirements without providing a means of meeting them. The concept of strategic raw materials was first introduced by the European Commission in 2023 when it added manganese, copper, and nickel to its list. However, in March 2023, the Commission acknowledged in its communication on the Critical Raw Materials Act that at present there is no regulatory framework aimed at structurally reducing supply risks across the range of critical raw materials. Europe is hence compelled to depend on forging free trade agreements with other third countries for the supply of raw materials. While national governments have implemented and withdrawn EV purchase incentives, the EU has established a goal to ban the sale of internal combustion engine (ICE) cars by 2035. Additionally, a level playing field approach to state aid for vehicle makers has resulted in substantially lower subsidies than in China. Less than $8 billion in US public investments has been made over the whole EV value chain as of 2021. However, the reports note that while there has been significant investments brought in by the Infrastructure Investment and Job Act of 2021, and the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, it is still very much a matter of catching up with China. Positively, the IRA's protectionism, which offers a $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicles whose battery components are made in more than a specific proportion in the US, Canada, or Mexico, should help American OEMs. On the infrastructural front, the US and Europe are likewise lagging behind China in terms of the public charging stations needed to accommodate EVs. With 80% of the funding coming from the federal government, the US has set aside $5 billion or 4.5 billion euro between 2022 and 2026 to create the nationwide network for charging electric vehicles in public spaces. There will be 114,000 public charging stations in the US by the end of 2022, but the report predicts that the number will rise to 1,200,000 by 2030. By the end of 2022, there will be 530,000 public charging stations across Europe. For comparison, China had around 1,140,000 charging points a year ago. growing to 5.84 million in March 2023 and an estimated 8.6 million by the end of the decade. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, stated on the company's Q4 2023 earnings call with analysts, the Chinese, will pretty much demolish most other car companies in the world if there are no trade barriers established. They're quite talented. But given that China is also the main supplier of batteries for European EVs, preserving fair competition in the face of protectionism from the US and China is a handicap for the industry in Europe. Did you know Tesla is no longer the EV champion? The biggest car brand you've never heard of. The leading automaker in China is promoting itself with those phrases as it seeks to grow internationally. After becoming the top seller auto brand in China, BYD & Co., an acronym for Build Your Dreams, has overtaken Tesla to become the largest electric vehicle manufacturer globally. The success of BYD has been largely attributed to vertical integration. BYD was able to dominate the market for reasonably priced electric cars by producing the bulk of its own parts and avoiding reliance on other vendors. The corporation can optimize sales, if not revenue, when venturing into new areas because of its capacity to provide a wide range of competitively priced electric vehicles. BYD is not only the brand that's dominating the EV race in China. The T9 Hunter, and it's made by the JAC. This pickup vehicle is entirely electric now. It doesn't take much to imagine that this may also be exported, since they already sell the T8, the previous generation, to other markets. Now that something is essentially on the market, there are a lot of details available regarding it. Thus, it has 2 motors, 4 wheels, a 1.8 meter cargo box at the back, 2 motors, 70 kilowatt and 160 kilowatt up front and rear, respectively, and an 88 kilowatt LFP pack. This is exactly what Australia needs in our opinion, but we just need the first person to take the huge chance and drive across. It's produced by JAC and has a quite neutral appearance. It is now a BYD brand that is jointly owned by Mercedes-Benz and Daimler, brings the Denza Z9 GT. They own 10% of it, while BYD owns the remaining portion. You can actually see that we have some space. This will compete with vehicles similar to the Porsche Taycan. This is a true showcase vehicle for BYD, or Denza, their brand, and it's headed to Europe. With 3 electric motors, this now has 710 kilowatt of power. It has 2 rear motors, each rated at 230 kilowatt, and 1 front motor, about 240 kilowatt. Farcical. It's a massive old beast measuring 5 meters in length. It will be really quick and extremely comfortable. The Z9 GT, which we recently saw, is their idea and is anticipated to be released later this year. However, Denza has already taken out a few vehicles. This is the Denza N9, a high-end hatchback. The other is an MPV that we'll see over there. There are high-quality premium materials with no guitar strings. This place has 3 displays, a large center screen, 2 side screens with built-in vents, and a 3rd screen that you may view if you walk around. BMW has their new class models in store for us too. They unveiled the new SUV, which has a rather intriguing appearance, at their Shenyang facility, which we visited a few years ago for fully charged. BMW has been producing electric cars in China. Additionally, they have been using an electric technique for a while. However, because Mini is plainly British and they recently launched this, we're suddenly more interested in them. The Aceman SE is the one that's making its way. Its 42 kilowatt hour battery runs for 7.99 seconds until it runs out of power. It's similar to your larger Mini. It's once intended to take over the position of the ICE Clubman, which was discontinued. These were mostly made in China at first, with the UK following suit. MG is also making strong statements in China. An excellent illustration of Sino-British cooperation is the MG X181 concept. With a heavily modified automobile, MG managed to set a land speed record in the 1950s, reaching around 250 miles per hour. They have returned with this now. This is the idea behind EX181. As you can see, it's a single-seater and has an extremely low drag coefficient of 0.181. It's also quite tight. To enter, the entire front pulls up. This is obviously an utterly absurd idea. It may never see the light of day, but it does have some Cyberstir-inspired design aspects. That's all, guys. Can China sustain its lead forever? Do let us know in your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to our channel for more information.